Minority in Parliament is threatening to take on the Finance Minister over delay in the release of statutory payments to various sectors. The payments, including the District Assembly's Common Fund, GET Fund and National Health Insurance Fund, are said to be in arrears for several months. The House backed down from a similar confrontation during the previous sitting after the Speaker intervened to get some funds released. Deputy Minority Leader Dominic Nituwol, in his welcome address when Parliament resumed Tuesday, insisted all such arrears would have to be paid without delay.
The Deputy Minority Leader's comments followed after the Speaker welcomed members from recess after the reopening of Parliament had been postponed twice. The Speaker explained part of the problem had been a distraction to part of the roof over the chamber in a recent storm.
I had to, in consultation with the leadership of the House and the Clerk to Parliament, postpone the date for the convening of this meeting of the House. Firstly, we had to quickly find resources and undertake the repair and replacement of parts of the top layer roof of this chamber, which had been ripped off by rainstorm. The situation would have been worse but for a second layer of roofing which saved the chamber from being flooded. We were compelled to invite the chairs and ranking members of those committees a week ago to provide the necessary resources to enable them complete their assignments and reports for submission to the House before the commencement of this meeting today, so that we'll launch straight into serious business.
Whilst urging members to be punctual so the House can attend to as many business as possible, he asked the various ministries and agencies to, as a matter of urgency, forward all bills in their possession to the House.
This President meeting may be short but quite packed with legislative business. I will extend an appeal to the ministries, departments and agencies of government to respect the timetable of the House and submit their respective businesses which require parliamentary approval or consideration timeously.
The Deputy Minority Leader reiterated the Speaker's call for punctuality but said the delay in the release of the statutory funds can no longer be tolerated.
Let me just remind the Majority Leader that the backlog of arrears that are owed the statutory funds, we believe it's about time the Finance Minister does something about it. The way we wanted to raise it and ask Parliament to really investigate what is happening, especially with regards to the law, the Speaker came in to say the situation. But let the Finance Minister be reminded that Parliament would no more allow what has happened to continue happening. If there are difficulties, they should come to the House and let us know so that we can all help put the situation right.
The Majority Leader, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, seconded the submission of the Deputy Minority Leader and assured the House of the Business Committee's commitment to ensure the quality of work is maintained.
I do not intend to wade into those other matters that are coming, but I guess that as a House, we will take up those matters together with the issue of corruption, which is very significant, so that we can sanitize our political environment and to work. And I expect that in this sitting, we will want to keep a close relationship between the quality and quantity. Mr. Speaker, your good self has drawn leadership attention to some of them, and we intend that we'll use a number of mechanisms, whether they be capacity building mechanisms to enhance the quality of work of this House.
The second meeting of the second session is expected to last for not more than 8 weeks and is dedicated to the legislative business. Still in Parliament, Member of Parliament for Takwa Nswaim, Gifty Eugenia Kusi, also made a statement on the kidnapping of the over 200 girls in Nigeria by the terrorist group Boko Haram. She urged the leaders of the sub-region to fast-track their efforts to get the girls released. Other members also contributed to the statement and condemned the action by Boko Haram. Emmanuel Ante, reporting for Joy News, Parliament, Accra.
Staying in Parliament, the House is planning to extend the number of days it sits to cover as much ground as possible this session. Deputy Majority Leader Alfred Agbeshi tells Joy News the House will sit on Mondays to make up for the days lost because it did not resume sitting on the date it had originally planned.
Already we have lost virtually 2 weeks, meaning 8 days sitting. But we are likely to get it through sittings on Mondays. So we will cover up. But the Constitutional Review Committee report, which had been sent to the Speaker, and by the constitutional provision, he has also sent it to the Council of State. It's likely to come back to the House properly for discussion and consideration. So we are expecting it. It has passed through the constitutional provisions. Now the other bills are also pending, particularly before the Constitutional Legal Committee. Property rights of spouses has been taken through the committee and is likely to appear on the floor by way of report. We also have other bills that the committee again have taken, and in the next week or so, they will all be brought here and we shall consider them. Other committees are also taking other bills through. So this meeting basically is going to be bills.
Meanwhile, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Ni Laya Fotiagbo, who was in the communities affected by the flood, says the Traditional Council is partly responsible. He explains the shutting down of the salt mining company nearby due to the ban on drumming and noise making meant that water spilled from the dam had to deviate from its normal course.
In order to disrespect the traditional authorities, we have allowed them to consult each other. Their superiors in Accra have moved to the ground, that's Botiano, to meet with their younger ones, to discuss with them as to what should be done. And it is because of the ban on the noise making and drumming. Because they claim that when the machine is working, it makes noise. And because of that, it will go against their tradition. But there must be a way out. At least, if there is any rituals that should be done, we are prepared as government to do it. We'll give them, it's a cow that we have to give, or bulls, or it is drinks that we have to give, or money, we are ready to do it, so that people have comfort. And if we are able to distill that particular stretch, where I'm talking about, people living in these areas will have their comfort.
Because many of them are saying this hasn't happened.
Yes, it is because of that situation. So when they went there in the morning, you should have been on the ground. I had to withdraw when I was to go to Adan with the president. I had to withdraw as the regional minister to allow my deputy rather to move, because I don't know how he would handle the situation if I'm not here myself. That's why I'm here. So I've come to assess the situation and then know what exactly action to take.
So having assessed the situation and knowing in the interim what are the measures we are putting in place?
We are now going back to meet with the traditional authorities. They have finished their consultation with their younger ones in the village. I'm in Botiano. They have now moved to the assembly. We are now also going back to meet with them and tell them what exactly is on the ground. So it's not a child play. Nobody should just toil with it, because it's a serious situation. Then we'll listen to them for them to tell us what they are coming out with, what they think we should do for the gods to be pacified or something, so that we'll get that thing done, so that people will have comfort.
With the Wegba Dam spillage, and it appears that the waters are not going to recede anytime soon unless the gods are pacified and the channels opened. I've been joined in the studio now by Joseph Opoku Gakpo. He is with Joy News and he has the very latest on the spillage. Apparently there's been a news conference.
Exactly, by the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing, and also the Ghana Water Company Limited. Well, they are convinced that the reason why the flooding has happened is mainly because of the blockage of the path between the River Denzu area and where it flows into the sea. They call it the estuary. And the explanation is that that area has been filled with sandbars, which needs to be cleared from the area. But the traditional authorities around Chokome, a community within the Botiano area, they say that because of the ongoing Homo festival, unless the gods are pacified before the clearing of the sandbars could happen, according to the ministry, NADMO is ready, the Ghana Water Company, they are ready to move into the area to remove all the sandbars so that then the water can flow directly into the river and then into the sea. Okay. Then it won't go and flood homes.
Okay. Now, what does the sandbags blocking, or what does that have to do with the celebration of the Homo War and the pacification of the gods?
The explanation is that because it's blocking the pathway, then the water is unable to flow into the sea. And if it's not flowing into the sea, then it flows into homes. With the celebration of the Homo, the traditional authorities say because of the ongoing celebrations, they wouldn't have to disturb areas around the sea and all of that. And before they could do that, unless a pacification of the gods is done. And that pacification cannot be done unless after coming Friday. And so it's after then that they can pacify the gods. Then the sandbars will be cleared to allow the flow of the water from the river into the sea. And now the ministry is saying that they are continuing with dialogue with the traditional authorities there, so that if possible they could bring that pacification exercise sometime soon. Okay. Then they could get the sandbars cleared for the water to flow into the sea.
Do you understand why the sandbags are blocking the channel?
Well, we understand that this is something that has been ongoing for some time now in terms of the sandbags being used to block the channels. And from the explanation that we get in, it's part of the ways to ensure that the water flows in the direct course that is supposed to go. And that was even before the spillage of the Wegba Dam.
Okay, so probably in the salt mining process, they are having to block off the water.
From the explanation that the ministry is giving, they don't bring in the angle that the Minister for the Greater Accra region makes about the mining process. They appear not to lay much emphasis on that, except that some time back, the blockage had to happen. But for now, that blockage using the sandbars needs to be taken off so that then it will allow for proper flow of the water. The dialogue is ongoing. According to the ministry, they've been meeting with officials of the national security and also the traditional authorities and NADMO. But they're saying that if the traditional authorities, as soon as possible, don't give way for the clearing of the sandbars, then they'll be forced to use force, whereby they would move in security persons to the area to supervise the clearing of the sandbars, because they can't continue to sit and allow for the flooding to happen. They explain that the Wegba Dam, for example, has reached a height of around 48 feet, which is the highest level that it could get to. So unless they spill, then they don't have an option.
But didn't they also talk about the fact that people in the vicinity had to be warned about the spillage of the dam?
Well, according to the ministry, Deputy Minister Samson Ahi, some education had been ongoing, asking the residents to move from the low-lying areas and those living along the banks of the river. So they anticipated that when the Wegba Dam is spilled, then there will be flooding. Hence, the education was done, but the residents didn't listen. And the minister is further warning that for those who continue to live along the banks of the river, they started spillage yesterday. They opened about 5 gates of the Wegba Dam, which is allowing water to flow out. They're warning that for those who are living around the low-lying areas, if they don't move, the expectation is that there will be more flooding in the area in the coming days when the rain comes. And so they continue the education, asking those in the low-lying areas to relocate from there. Otherwise, they would find themselves in trouble.
All right. Thank you very much. That was Joseph Opoku Gapo of Joy News, bringing us up to speed on the situation at Wegba regarding the spillage at Wegba. Now, thousands of supporters and sympathizers of the New Patriotic Party poured out onto the streets of Kumasi to protest what they describe as the current economic hardships in the country. The protesters wielding placards also complained bitterly about the ongoing nationwide power rationing exercise they say has been deliberately intensified in the Ashanti region. Organizers say the protest is the first in a series that will be going nationwide. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
The protesters were already set for the demonstration as early as 6 a.m. Tuesday, and as the time wore on, their numbers grew, adding on as they traversed through the streets of the Garden City. The protesters wore red and black, explaining it was to communicate their anguish about the devastation of the economy and the unbearable power rationing program. From the Suame roundabout, they went through Bantuma and some principal streets of the Kumasi metropolis. The police were also on hand to control the demonstrators, some on motorbikes, but it became all too obvious they were overwhelmed. The protesters at some point became disorganized, making control extremely difficult for the police. Holding placards with different descriptions to indicate their frustrations and disappointment, they chanted their grief. A group amongst them chose to portray the state of the ceremony with a coffin, saying it was dead beyond resurrection, so long as it remained in the hands of the current administration. The young, old, male and female were all on the streets for the demonstration. Officials say it's the biggest so far in the country. Bernard Inchiboisiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, accused the ruling party of mismanagement and failure to fulfill the promises they made prior to 2012 general elections. According to the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, over 1 million Ghanaians have signed a petition asking President John Dramani Mahama to resign.
Judgment that justice of the Supreme Court to be NRC and create, loot and share about because in a real or minus cannot take it near the NAP. That's how you say. But before I say, Ubu Koto Kwasia, Nakopo, Opeopo, Ubu Koto Kwasia, Yami, Opeopo. Ladies, I say, money ban the air buying Ghana for money ban the air buying here. Ama Yahoto Yansa. Yandia, ye Shagana phone calling. Sir, and Penny Forsey, Achia. Na emuri asi abebo nyina de achia na emuri asi abebo nyina de say ni ayeko no ye ya trashie edini ye kata ndi sifo say baba edo no o ma kire pefe say o man no o mo ntimi mu say o mo ntimi mu a o mo ntwe ono mo na Ghana fo ye Ghana fo ma o mo nimdie e wa amamu ho.
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report for Joy News.
Meanwhile, government says it finds it difficult taking suggestions on Ghana's development when they are politically motivated. Reacting to Tuesday's massive demonstration in Kumasi on today's big story, Information and Media Relations Minister Mama Yariga says the opposition New Patriotic Party should not be speaking for the people of the Ashanti region.
Well, I mean, we have always taken every Ghanaian who has spoken about anything from the economy to our politics seriously. It depends on how informed the dialogue is. If you speak from a clearly very informed position, I think that we have an ear to listen to that.
Very well.
But if you don't engage in that kind of dialogue, I mean, you are free to go ahead and do that. But
Very
it
well.
just creates a situation where you might not be heard. I know ECG is not a partisan group. It is an establishment that we have put together with technical competence, and they're doing their job. I believe that if there's any special problem in relation to any municipality, I think that if the attention is drawn to it, they will be able to provide a technical reason why it is the way it is. And so I think that the efforts to create an impression that a certain town or location has been picked up for victimization or unfair treatment in this power rationing exercise that they are involved in. I think that when we do that, we misrepresent things and we set ourselves back.
You're watching the Primetime News Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. We have more stories coming up. Don't go away. The rector of the Cape Coast Polytechnic is demanding that the Ministry of Education and the National Labour Commission, as a matter of urgency, resolve the impasse between POTAG and government, explaining the current situation is taking a great toll on academic work. His comments follow the closure of the Cape Coast Polytechnic due to a prolonged strike by its lecturers. He says stakeholders involved in polytechnic education need to take a second look at the situation.
Professor Lawrence Atepo was speaking to Joy News in Cape Coast a day after the closure of the Polytechnic. He described the situation as unfortunate.
We advise the Ministry of Education, especially the Minister, and then the POTAG and the National Labour Commission, that in order not to drag this issue, they should sit down, come to an understanding, and get this thing resolved. This is no big deal that should drag on for us, for students and parents to be suffering. Yes, this is a very issue that I feel can easily be resolved.
The decision to send the students home was arrived at after an emergency meeting to discuss the way forward.
School children at Isiakwa Methodist Primary School in the East Akim municipality of the Eastern region were denied use of their classrooms Tuesday when they arrived at school to discover it had been desecrated with human excreta. The pupils were as a result compelled to hold their classes under trees. Haruna Yusuf Mpune reports community members are said to be responsible for what has become a regular feature in the community.
It's about 9 a.m. in the morning, and pupils of the Isiakwa Methodist Primary School, instead of being in the classrooms, are rather studying under trees due to the defecation in their classrooms by some unscrupulous persons in the community. The frequent defecation in classrooms by some community members is a major source of worry for the school children. They add, the school is also a haven for weed smokers. They complain that, as a result of the practice, they tend to use greater parts of their mornings in school to wash off human feces and urine. The assemblyman for the Tuafu electoral area, Franco Uswabwaji, spoke about some measures to deal with the problem.
Yeah, fan home channel, but I'm running as I'm running for and Colano, I educate you on Yenibia, Obaba, president, Obama minister, so you're too big. There were yes, at the acting in the air. Mr. Sabam woman, assemblyman. Now, be a piece of could be another assembly. Made young up your channel. You could jail 5 years, 10 years. None of my men, Papa Musa, when you're good or bad.
The headmaster of the school, who spoke off camera, also expressed concern about the situation. Meanwhile, the school is also saddled with infrastructure challenges. It has no toilet and urinary facilities after the old toilet became dysfunctional, forcing students to resort to the bushes when attending to nature's call. This manhole, which was done long ago to construct a new toilet facility for the school for almost 20 years now, has still not been constructed. Haruna Yusuf Mpune's reports for Joy News.
President John Dramani Mahama has appointed Charles Akelira Abugre as the acting chief executive of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, SADA. Currently the African Regional Director of the UN Millennium Campaign, he has more than 20 years of experience in economic and international development. He is a graduate of the University of Ghana and holds a master's degree in development studies from the Institute of Social Studies in The Hague, Netherlands. He replaces the current acting chief executive, Dr. Charles Jabuni. Up next, we bring you business news.
Right, so we're getting into the World Cup. Hook, line and sinker. Just about 24 hours to the start of the World Cup. And the Black Stars have settled for Brazil after their comprehensive 4-0 win over South Korea in yesterday's pre-World Cup friendly. The team left its camp base in Miami moments ago and are expected to make a stop in Washington, D.C. before arriving in Maceió for the World Cup. 6 national football teams, including the Black Stars, are yet to arrive in Brazil for the soccer fiesta. Meanwhile, the medical team of the Black Stars have confirmed they are monitoring the injury situation of striker Abdul Majid Waris, who picked a knock early on in the friendly against South Korea last night. So we are really paying close attention to that to ensure that this man is definitely fit. Now, the chairman of Youth and Sports Committee has congratulated Jordan Ayew for vindicating the coach and selecting him to the Stars squad. He also praised the Stars' performance against Korea Republic on Monday and said the win will serve as a morale booster days ahead of the tournament proper. He was speaking to Parliamentary correspondent Emmanuel Ante in Parliament.
I think the win was very important and vital, and we got it. And the margin was quite conclusive to the extent that the people we're going to be meeting must know the kind of team Black Star is. We expected to win and we won. And so the psychology especially and the spirit around the team now is one of respect. We will not go in as underdogs, even though they may be considering us as such, and that will be good for us so that we go in and get them out. Yes, I heard the criticisms, and of course, some of the players, I must really congratulate the young chap, the younger you, because he didn't allow the criticism to weigh him down. He really proved everybody wrong that he could rise to the occasion, and that was exactly what he did yesterday. let him do his work. Let us give him all the support he deserves today. Let them give him all the encouragement and energy he deserves, he needs now. He is at the war front. We are following him. And I believe he will deliver by the grace of God. With this optimism, I think we should just give him all that he needs at this time, hoping that we'll get to the top.
Right, so we know what the Black Stars are doing and how they're getting themselves ready, but how about those who are going to support them? And supporters are unimpressed with the minimum number of funds government intends to send to Brazil, with funds raised from corporate bodies. Sports Minister Elvis Afriyanko yesterday announced that at least 500 fans will be sponsored to cheer the Black Stars at the World Cup. But the supporter unions are urging the Sports Ministry to do more before the official airlifting begins on Friday.
I like the word you use, at least. I'm very happy for this at least 500. We are hoping that the number will increase. Well, since the corporate bodies are still in Ghana, I know they will do much better to make sure that the target, the minimum of 1,000, the aim of taking thousands of others will be achieved. So the 500 at least, I'm happy that the 500 is secure at the opportunity for us. So no, we won't say anything much. We thank the corporate bodies for making it possible for us to go to Brazil.
In general, the people who are desiring to go to the World Cup, they are more than 500 or they are more than 600. The sports ministry money has been provided for them in order to take people to Brazil. There are many people who supported the sports minister during his campaign and many things, but those people are being neglected and they are not being helped. So we pray that from now to Friday, the charter plane can take almost about 1,500.
At least 500 is enough. But we know we still have standby more than 500.
All right, so let's talk about the World Cup for the universities as well, because the Ghana University Sports Association will on Wednesday commence the 23rd edition of its biennial games at the University of Cape Coast. The week-long games will see 7 public universities compete in 10 sporting disciplines. Treasurer of the Ghana University Sports Association, Elvis Hagan, has been speaking ahead of the grand opening.
What else can we say than to expect very wonderful and a successful event with all the participating universities well prepared. So what I'm foreseeing is that whoever comes up tops would have to do beyond 110% of their maximum. Yeah, because what I'm seeing is that some of the national athletes are dotted over the campuses. So for now, you can't easily come out to say, okay, School A, School B, it's coming up tops. But as a host, and I still have that strong conviction that with the team I have, I am very, very sure. I'm very, very sure.
All right, the defending champions. So it's pretty exciting how all these teams are getting themselves ready for it. We can wait for our first game. That will be against USA on Monday. That will be all for sports tonight. I'm George Adijuni. Have a good night. Israel, join us with some more.
Gospel musicians go through a lot to produce their works, but they struggle to recoup even half of the investment. That is because quite often some pastors tag their performances as an offering to God and the church. But renowned keyboardist Isaac Aye says pastors should have the decency to pay professional singers when they perform in their churches. He was speaking at the 5th edition of the Bass Clinic held at the Tesano Baptist Church.
The 5th edition of the Bass Clinic featured many personalities like Reverend Helen Yawson, multiple award-winning music producer Zab Mallet, gospel singer Neo Kai, Akwabwa, and others. The main focus of the program was to groom budding instrumentalists to become confident in playing their various instruments. And true to form, many people turned up with varied expectations. As the program progressed, participants were divided into groups for tutorials. But it was a comment by renowned keyboardist Isaac Aye that was to get the attention of many.
It's when you make that leap and you believe. And what are the pastors? I want to tell you, you know what? I hate, I'm notorious for that. A lot of pastors hate me. But you know what? I'm not worried about the pastors that hate me. Probably I have more money than some of them anyway. I don't care. No disrespect. But you know what? Let me tell you this, all right? Could you kindly treat your musicians with respect? It's a biblical order to feed your musicians, okay? Do not tell them to play for the love of the Lord. There's no such thing as the love of the Lord. You either love God or you don't, okay? Anybody in church must be there because they're trying to find the Lord. So please keep the love part of it.
His comments about paying professional singers in churches was, however, received with mixed reactions. Back to the program, Nigerian guitarist Malam Bass rounded up the show with some demonstrations. Bass Clinic is a music clinic for instrumentalists, singers and music lovers. It is currently one of the largest gathering of musicians, music producers and industry players in Ghana. You can't afford to miss next year's edition.
That's it for the bulletin. Before we go a quick run through our top stories. Thousands of demonstrators pour out onto the streets of Kumasi to protest tough living conditions and what they say is the unfair treatment of the Ashanti region in current nationwide power rationing program. Hundreds of residents in two communities at Dansoman here in Accra forced out of their homes following flooding caused by Wegba Dam spillage. Minority in Parliament threatening to take on Finance Minister over delay in release of statutory funds. Rector of Cape Coast Polytechnic demands immediate action from government to resolve lecturers' strike, which has forced the closure of the Polytechnic. And senior policy analyst at the National Development Planning Commission blames the country's inability to forecast shocks for the recurring economic woes. That'll be it for the bulletin. My name is Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching and have a good evening.